All right, good evening. It's 6 o'clock on June 3rd. We're going to convene this meeting of the Dublin Cinema and Services District Board of Directors. I do apologize in advance. I got a bit of a late spring head cold, so my voice is a bit raggedy, but I will try to get us through this, and I will call this meeting to order. And item 2, we will pledge the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Nicole, can we do roll call, please?
Director Johnson?
Here.
Director Von Heater-Leopold?
Here.
Director Grimendorau?
Here.
Vice President Halkett?
Here.
President Goel?
Awesome. You know what? I don't think I did this yet. There we go. Just to make it official. Moving on to item 4, special announcements, new employee introductions. I believe we have one.
Good evening. I'm Diane Griffin, Operations Compliance Manager, and I'd like to ask you to help me welcome our newest DSRSD team member, Janice Velasquez. Janice comes to the district with over 17 years of experience, including her last position where she was Administrative Assistant for Alameda County Office of Education. And Janice will be supporting our environmental and regulatory compliance divisions, where, among other things, she'll be helping to track our compliance with our recycled water customers and our backflow prevention devices. Janice.
Thank you, Diane. I'm very excited and happy to be here.
Hey, welcome.
Awesome. Welcome. Glad you're on the team. Thank you so much. So, you want a special announcement?
That's the only one.
All righty. Moving on to item 5, public comment. I recognize all these faces. I don't think we have any public in here. I have no blue cards, anything submitted
No
online?
speaker
Or, okay. Then we're going to move on. Item 6, agenda management.
No recommended changes.
Perfect. All right, consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar tend to be routine. It can be taken as a whole. Do I have a motion for the consent calendar?
I'll move approval.
Got a motion.
I'll second.
And we second that emotion. That's awesome. All right. A motion and a second. And you've recorded those. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. All right, board business. We're going to have a public hearing to adopt operating budget for fiscal years 2026 and 2027. The recommended action is to hold a public hearing and adopt a resolution. I do need to do this to make it legal. We'll open the public hearing. We're going to receive some staff reports followed by public comments. If you wish to address the board, please complete a speaker card. We've already established that nobody's going to do that. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per speaker, which also is moot too. Staff.
So good evening, Vice President Halkett, members of the board. Every 2 years, staff prepares a 2-year budget for the board's review and consideration. On May 6th and May 20th, staff reviewed the proposed operating and capital budgets for fiscal years 2026 and 2027 and the 10-year capital improvement program with the board. Tonight, we are asking the board to consider as 2 separate agenda items, holding public hearings to consider adopting the operating and capital budgets. T. Lucera, our financial analyst, will be filling in for Ken Spray, the finance director, this evening, and she will be providing a brief presentation on the proposed operating budget.
Good evening, directors. My name is Tin Lucero, and I am the financial analyst. The agenda includes the budget overview, the proposed revenue, expenses, and interfund transfer. We also include the long-term financial outlook, and lastly is the staff recommendation. District operate 3 enterprises: the local wastewater for the collection services, regional wastewater for treatment and disposal of wastewater, and lastly, the water enterprise for potable and recycled water services. We are also a member of two joint powers authority, the DSRSD and the East Bay Municipal Utility District Recycle Water Authority, or DERWA. Second, the Livermore Amador Valley Water Management Agency, or LAVMA. So this operating budget provide sufficient funding and staff resources to fund the operation of the three enterprises and meet the obligation to operate on behalf of these two joint power authority, as well as provide funding for replacement of critical capital assets. This operating budget was developed entirely based on the Board of Director directions set forth in the 2025 strategic plans we adopted from fiscal year 26 to 30. It also incorporates the result of the 2024 workforce study. It adheres to all legal requirements of an operating budget. And lastly, it uses all sound financial principles, including adhering to all the financial policies and trying to be the most transparent and accountable. So the district faced, District addressed a number of operational policy challenges in this budget. We have a lot of new and more stringent regulatory requirements. Like other agency, right now we also face rising personnel costs, including medical and pension related. There are uncertainty in the energy and supply cost. We also face a lot of replacement need for capital assets. And lastly, we see that revenue in generally grows at a lower pace than expenses. For example, the wastewater adjustment recently updated by the February to February CPI increase, and it was only 2.7%. To implement the 2024 workforce study, staff first try to reallocate the vacant position where feasible. Second, we convert the one limited term position to a regular full-time in finance department, and also request one new FTE to support the regulatory compliance division. Overall, we propose an increase of net one FTE, so the total district position count will be from 141 to 142 position. Next is the proposed budget, including revenues, expenses, and interfund transfer. So compared to the last operating budget workshop on May 20th, this proposed budget includes the following updates. We recommend to continue funding the scholarship for Aqua and CASA to regular due payments and direct 2,000 contribution without designation. We also increased the contribution to LAVMA JPA approximately $100,000 based on the agency adopted budget on May 21st. And lastly, we have a minor decrease in the Doherty Valley Standby Assessment District. This does not affect the three enterprise finance as it's a pass-through revenue, which is adjusted based on the state water project's adjusted cost. On this slide is the total district revenue by category. There has been no significant change except for the minor decrease in the other revenue related to the Doherty Valley. So overall, we project $106 million of revenue from all sources in fiscal year 26, and then $112 million in fiscal year 27. On the expense side, same. We don't have any changes except for the contribution to JPA. And all department has been working really hard to minimize cost increase as much as possible. And with that, fiscal year 26, the total operating expense projected to be $91.3 million or 5.5% increase. And fiscal year 27 is $94.9 million or 3.9% increase. On this slide is the summary of all interfunds transfer. The replacement transfer from operating and capital replacement fund are the largest, and staff proposed a 9.1 million for the next 2 years. We're not fully funding our capital asset need based on the previous module. We also include here the other transfer, the fifth supplement agreement transfer from regional wastewater to water for the avoided cost by using recycled water. It's an annual transfer. And then the 2.1 million in fiscal year 26 transfer from expansion to water enterprise is based on an approved 2024 water rate study. So this slide and the next slide, we're trying to show the net result of operation for all three enterprise. The light blue color is revenue, light green is expenses, and then the dark green color is the net transfer out. So local wastewater and water will see a surplus of 251 and almost 3 million respectively. On the other hand, the regional wastewater will have to use 1.1 million in reserve to cover the deficit. Similarly, in fiscal year 27, local wastewater and waters are also good with small surplus, and the regional wastewater will have to dip further down to reserve to cover the almost 1.9 million deficit. I'm going to present the financial outlook for the three enterprises over the 10-year period. On this chart, the peach bar color is the combined working capital, and the red and green lines are the minimum and target reserve. Overall, the local wastewater module is in good financial condition. Ending working capital projected to be over target level until 28 and between target and minimum for the remaining of the years. The regional wastewater fund balance are starting in a strong position above target as shown on column for fiscal year 25. And however, due to cost increase that was not accounted in the 2023 wastewater rate study, the working capital is trending downward and projected to be below minimum in fiscal year 31. But we're not going to let it happen. The corrective strategy we want to propose and plan for is the update of the wastewater rate study. We will optimize and try and refine our asset management module, propose more energy-related projects to reduce consumption and stabilize energy costs. After the update to the master plan of the wastewater treatment plant, we also will do an update on the wastewater capacity reserve fee. Water fund is overall in good financial condition. Working capital is projected to be below target and above minimum reserve level for all 10 years, with the annual balance increasing modestly each year. And with that, our conclusion is we recommend the Board of Directors to adopt the fiscal year 26 and 27 operating budget to provide funding and staff resource for operating and maintaining the three enterprises. And that concludes my presentation. Staff available for questions you may have.
Well done, thank you. Public comment first. I have no blue cards, anything from other channels? Okay, so I will close the public hearing. Board members, do you have anything for staff? Nothing?
I just had one thing. Thank you for a nice presentation. Going back to a couple slides, I think near the end here, the third to the end,
Regional.
where you're talking about the regional wastewater. again, could you just again highlight like what, since we, the ending working capital is obviously lower than our minimum reserves. What are our targeted, minimum reserves? What is sort of I'm sorry, you had mentioned some corrective actions. Could you just sort of reiterate what those are? So I didn't really catch all that on the corrective actions. What are we looking to do to sort of change course?
Yes, the first and most important one is the wastewater rate study. We're going to update it in fiscal year 26.
Okay.
And then we will also look at the asset management program to refine and to find critical asset replacement need. Also, we had mentioned in the previous in the previous workshop that we will also look for the Section 115 trust fund to manage pension cost, and then and we will work with consultant to develop a new 10-year financial planning module that can incorporate like what if scenario between the operating and CIP to see like if the replacement transfer different, or inflation come in higher, or cost increase, like so many scenario that we can do to prepare.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
So,
I'll just add that when you see the graph, you can see it sort of stabilized toward the end because the LAVMA debt comes off the books
right.
toward the end. But part of it, when we're also, T earlier mentioned that we are going to, after the wastewater treatment plant master plan is done, revisit and update our wastewater capacity reserve fee study. And that will look at the funding for the capital program. So one of the pressures on this fund, as you see in the CIP presentation, is that we have a number of capital projects that are lined up. So we're going to be looking at that funding source as well, and the timing of when those projects need to occur. So that refinement in the asset management model will help smooth this out, along with the additional or adjustments to revenues that we might need to look at as part of the cost of service and revenue requirements in the regional wastewater rate study that we're going to do next year.
Are we looking then to potentially delay some of those projects? Is that part of the?
I think part of it will depend on what the master plan shows.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So if I were to summarize, 'cause I want to go back to slide 2, kind of a multi-pronged approach. We're going to have a rate study. We're going to have a capacity reserve refresh. We're going to look at the asset model, which may move those green and red lines up or down a little bit as we hone that, because I know it's kind of it's not a goal. It's a estimate, and we just got to get better at the estimate. And we have 3 years to figure it out. No, 4 years to figure it out. Piece of cake. All right. Any other stuff from the board?
It doesn't move the lines, it just changes the height of the bars,
No.
right?
The lines may move too, because those lines are.
I thought the lines were driven by policy.
But the policy is an estimate, and as the asset management model gets better,
Okay, so you have a formula.
the entire plan was to
Right.
eventually move to an asset model based number versus
I understand your logic.
2 years of spend or whatever I don't know what 15 years of average spend or whatever we use now. So lots of things are going to move.
I mean, the red line's not
Okay.
arbitrary, so that's, you've clarified that for me.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We've closed the public hearing. I think, unless there's more questions, we're ready for a motion. Who wants to move the budget?
Is the public hearing closed?
Yeah.
I move that we accept the budget as presented by staff this evening.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Duly recorded. Let's call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. All right. Let me get to the right place here. 8A. Okay, now we're going to move on to the CIP land. Sorry, I got a little lost here. 8B, public hearing. Approve capital improvement program CIP 10-year plan for fiscal years 26 through 2035 and adopt CIP two-year budget for fiscal years 26 and 27. The recommended action is to hold a public hearing and adopt the resolution, and the public hearing is now open. You staff first, go.
Good evening, Vice President Halkett, members of the board. I'm Steve Delight, Engineering Director. Tonight, not sitting here, but in the audience is Jason Ching and Avita Shoup, who are a big part of the CIP team. I really want to acknowledge Avita tonight. She did all of the heavy lifting, putting together the big fat budget book. You know, when we're like, change this thing by $50,000, it like cascades throughout the entire document. And I don't know how many times we did that to her, but it was a lot. And I really appreciate all of the effort that she did for this. Let's see here.
And we appreciate staff sharpening their pencils.
So the proposed agenda for tonight is to once again go through the key themes, general overview, the slight adjustments that we made since May 20th, and then consider adoption. Both of my All right, so the key themes. Just a quick reminder, the key themes is a reduction in estimated revenue due to decreasing capacity reserve fees as we're approaching build-out, and a reduction of replacement transfer allocations. And then on the expenditure side, we worked in the energy projects that we've talked about quite a bit, and we adjusted all the projects to cover the inflationary costs since the last CIP update. There have been a few slight adjustments since you last saw this slide of the projects and programs for the 2-year and 10-year budget. For the 2-year budget, it is proposed at $92.2 million, with 94 projects and programs, which includes the JPA projects. And for the 10-year, it is $284.8 million, with 122 projects and programs. This slide here hasn't really It's still about 75% replacement for both the 2-year and the 10-year, and 25% expansion. And the same thing with this slide here, no real changes by expenditures by fund. All right, on to the summary. So, quick summary, the revenue outlook, it shows a decline in capacity reserve fees as we're approaching build out. So it's a reduction in revenue there. The replacement transfers were also reduced, which T talked about. On the expenditure side, energy-related projects added about $75 million to the CIP, and then overall rising capital costs. As far as working capital, funds 220, 320, and 620 are all above target reserves. Funds 210 and 610 are between the minimum and target reserve levels, and Fund 310 is showing fiscal pressure starting at around fiscal year 33, which is slightly after what you saw in the last presentation. So what were the couple of small adjustments that we did? LAVMA projects, which is really just a change in the budget sheets, as the replacement and rehabilitation for funding is a fixed amount. So it didn't change anything in any of the projects that you saw. So the LAVMA projects is, again, it's just a few adjustments to these projects in general that are listed on the screen. Battery storage, with all of the discussion we've kind of had around battery storage, and we did end up allocating $100,000 in fiscal year 27 to do a feasibility study. The balance of the project is remaining in future for now, but to figure it out, that project. And then the food waste receiving facility, we moved everything to the future there. This project does have a potential to impact nutrients, and we also received a letter from Cal Recycle where they have finally decided that they do want to classify the fates of food waste that would go in our digesters that would end up in the DLDs, is that it would be counted as a landfill, which is really unfortunate. So anyways, funding has been moved to the future, and we will study the most recent letter that we got from Cal Recycle with the wastewater treatment plant master plan. So our recommendation is to approve the capital improvement program 10-year plan for fiscal years 26 through 35, and adopt the capital improvement program 2-year budget for 26 and 27. And by adopting the CIP budget, the board authorizes total budgets for the individual capital projects and programs. It authorizes the initiation of project expenditures in either of fiscal year 26 or 27. Establishes the maximum expenditures from each capital fund for fiscal year 26 and 27, and it approves funding for the purchase of replacement capital assets. And staff is available should you.
Thank you, Steve. All right, first of all, public, I have no cards, no other input from any other channels.
No speaker cards.
Okay, then I'll close the public hearing. And the board can have at staff. Who wants to go first?
Could you repeat what you said about the food waste?
So the food waste, I think it was after the last board meeting. We got a letter from Cal Recycle. So if you remember, like the little bit of history on that was first Cal Recycle said if we brought in food waste and we were to end, the ending fate of food waste would be in the DLD, that it would not be classified as a landfill, and we could help with Senate Bill 1383. After much deliberation and several meetings with Cal Recycle, for lack of a better way to say it, they've essentially changed their mind. But there's the letter is a couple pages long, and there's several things that we could do that could potentially still make us be able to participate in being part of the solution for 1383. But exactly, and that's why we decided, kind of made the call last second. Let's put this out and let's look through this with the wastewater treatment plant master plan, and have them go through the letter, and we can have more dialogue with Cal Recycle to see.
Okay.
Yes.
And if I remember right, that Senate bill is a burden on the cities, right? And so
It is.
What?
it's a burden on the city. It's their problem to solve. We can help them solve it,
Right.
but it shouldn't be our problem to drive. It sounds like it's gonna. If I'm hearing you right, we're gonna back off a little bit, let the city sort it out, and talk to these recycle people. And
And
Yeah.
yeah, and again, evaluate it with the treatment plant master.
Yeah. Got it.
No questions.
No questions.
Fine.
Wow. All right. Let's do this. I've closed the public hearing, so now I can call for a motion to accept the CIP budget.
I'll move we accept the staff recommendation.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. You got those recorded. Let's call the ball. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? None. Cool. All right. Move on to item 9 now. Joint Powers Authority, 9A1. Let's do this in order. Joint Powers Authority and committee reports. There was a LABMA board meeting on May 21st. I did not attend, but I assume some of you did. And they want to give me a report?
Sure, yeah. We Director Goyle and myself attended the LABMA meeting. Just a couple of things to report back on. We elected a new chair. So Jeff Niebert is from Pleasanton is the new chair, and the vice chair is Steve Dunbar from Livermore. We also reviewed the proposed operating capital budget for 2025-2026. Starting as of that meeting, the day of service will be paid by LAVMA, not DSRSD anymore, or indirectly through DSRSD. And the next meeting will be on August 20th. And I may not be be able to attend that next meeting, so I may need your help with that.
Am I the alternate for LABMA? Yes. August 20? I'll be in town. Yeah, let's do it. Cool.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other Joint Powers Authority reports? I don't see any on the list here. Sounds good. 9A2, written reports for days of service attended by directors. Written reports, does anyone have any reports? I'll start with you on the far right.
I attended the CASA board meeting via Zoom, and we decided upon the new slate of officers that will be presented in August. Not officers, directors. Rob Thompson from OC San, Dave Pedersen from Las Virgenes, Tony Tremblay from Camarillo, and Sandeep Kakal from Novato San. You might recognize those names because they're the same people. Every single one of them wanted to do it again. And then for the Secretary Treasurer's position, because if you recall, the Secretary Treasurer is the one we elect and then they automatically move up the ranks unless there's major disagreement, is going to be Scott Goldman from South Coast Water District. Let's see. We have set a date for strategic plan. Oh, we also, if you recall, one of the things I wanted to do when I was president was to have an award that recognized someone who has stepped up the same as Michael Dillon did. You all might remember Michael Dillon was the executive director for years, and then he was the California lobbyist, and he's been around forever. He knows the whole history. Anyway, I wanted to recognize him through an award that nominated someone else in the work plan. And let's see, I thought I had it marked. Some of you will recognize the name. Sharon Green. She's the Legislative and Regulatory Program Manager at Los Angeles County SAN. She's our nominee this year for the Michael Dillon Award. And that's it.
Excellent, thank you. Any other reports? Any reports? Okay. So that's 9A2, dispensed with. 9A3, any new agenda items you guys want to get on to the future agenda? Quiet tonight. 9B, staff reports.
We have a few updates for the board this evening. First, Michelle Gallardo, Administrative Services Director. We wanted to touch on the new quarterly public affairs report that will be included in the board packet.
Yes, so good evening, Vice President Halkett, members of the board. In your packet is the Public Affairs Quarterly Report. This report is being included in support of the district's strategic goal to provide customer service and community engagement, and to support the strategy for building public awareness through outreach, education of district services, priorities, and initiatives. This quarterly report covers January through March of 2025, and it includes 3 sections. Communications, which will cover social media, website, media engagement, and newsletters. Second section is public outreach and education, including updates on tours, outreach campaigns, and education in-person events, and a third section on partnership activities. And I'm available to answer any questions.
I just have a quick one. Are you looking for feedback, or is this for information only?
This is informational, and obviously can answer any questions you might have.
We can always offer feedback too.
Well, I wanted to understand 3 months, that kind of a lag would make it very difficult for us to provide feedback. So if it's for information only, I'll accept it in that regard.
Excellent. Anything there?
Thank you.
Okay, the next update. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a question? The next update, we had some challenges last week with our Duro Recycle Water plant, and I wanted Dan Gill, Operations Director, to briefly touch on the response from his team. First, I just want to commend Dan and his team. We had a 36-hour interruption of our recycled water treatment plant. I'm sure he'll mention a number of the kind of overlapping challenges that occurred. And throughout it, they were very communicative with our customers, talking to staff. It was just a first-rate response all around.
Yes, good evening, Vice President Halkett, members of the board. I'm Dan Gill, the Operations Director. As Jan mentioned, I'd like to report on operational situation last week. We experienced a major power outage that affected about 3,000 of our customers, to include the regional wastewater treatment plant and the Derwa recycled water treatment plant. As a result of the length of the outage, which was approximately 16 hours, we informed our customers that they would experience an interruption in service. As the PG&E power outage progressed and our emergency generators provided power to the regional plant, we also experienced our underground storage tanks fuel transfer system stopped transferring fuel to power the generator that powered the plant. So staff responded by doing a manual fuel transfer from about 4 p.m. on that Tuesday, the 27th of last week, all the way until power came back on about 3 a.m. And because of that, manual transfer, we were able to keep the regional plant in service without any interruption. On the recycled water side, we communicated to our customers, East Bay Mud, DSRSD customers in the city of Pleasanton. The message there was to not be surprised if you saw the irrigation systems having low pressure, and also to shut off any equipment which would be damaged if pressure were lost. As a result, I think we got 2 unofficial complaints of low pressure, and the system returned back to service the morning of the 28th after we had recovered the tanks to full operational volume. I think it was an awesome experience, and for all operations staff, the unified operations structure worked. Our field operations, our maintenance team, wastewater operations were all communicating seamlessly. And of course, there were things that we learned from the experience that we can get better on. We actually did a debrief today to kind of memorialize all that information. But overall, I think it was a positive experience, and hats off to staff on responding and performing accordingly. So I can answer any questions as well.
Awesome. Well done. It's funny. I mean, I think because I'm pretty close. I think we've lost power 3 times in the last month.
For us, it's been twice in this month, and we are asking PG&E.
I was going to say, anything from PG&E about what's going on, or
we're communicating with our rep, and as always, we're just waiting on a response.
Got it. Any other board members? Questions?
What is the bottom line impact when something like this happens? Do we have any recourse to recoup those costs from PG&E?
PG&E does have a program where they can reimburse if we have equipment failures associated with their outages, and we can apply for that. And we will look into, because we had to use our generators, the fuel, and also
Probably had people on overtime, etc. I mean, if even if we don't go after reimbursement, I think we would calculate that and notify PG&E of that,
our demand,
so that they're aware that this does affect us and our customers.
It's not free.
Us being cranky, because we do need that. I think it's good to put them on notice, particularly if you said it's happened 3 times in the past month.
Absolutely.
That starts to add up.
Yeah, I would definitely second that. But I also want to say, that was a great job with kind of putting all hands on deck and really addressing that issue. I mean, all the teams came together, and so really hats off to all of you. Thank you.
And keeping the
Yep.
That's the biggie. And I know, you've had lots of tests in the rain. This was probably the first test you've had with PG&E.
Awesome. Well done. I think, is that it for 9B?
Just one announcement for events for June. The Dublin Liaison meeting has been scheduled. It is on Monday, June 23rd, and President Goel and Director Von Heater Leopold are our representatives for that. And then the last, this is summertime, so I know schedules can get a little bit challenging. If board members are aware of a meeting they're going to miss, if they could please let either Nicole Gonzalez or myself know, that would be very appreciated. for agenda management. And then lastly, the closed session this evening will be held in the GM conference room.
Got it. Thank you. I should have brought it up under board member items. I will be missing, and I've already informed staff, I'll be missing the second meeting in July. I'll be out of the state with my family on a boat, probably with a margarita.
You don't want to give your address?
I've learned that the Wi-Fi doesn't work very well
joking.
on cruise ships. You cannot, yeah,
Oh,
it doesn't work. All right, closed session. Now, Doug, how much of this do I need to read? Conference with real property negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8. Is that sufficient?
I can read for you.
I can keep going.
Okay.
All right, property, various properties, various parcels in the city of Dublin. District negotiator is the general manager. Negotiating parties is the city of Dublin manager Colleen Tribby. Under negotiation, price and terms of payment for wastewater capacity. We're going to have this in the GM's room. The attendees are as listed, plus I assume Doug. Anybody else?
Or Steve Delight, engineering director, and Jackie Yee, senior engineer, will also be joining us this evening.
Awesome. All right. Please remember to mute your mics, and we'll be back Okay, 11, report from closed session. We're in the boardroom, here we go. The recording's back on, right? Okay, board returns, unmute my mic, I've done that. The board meeting is now back in open session. The closed session is concluded. There are no reportable actions taken in closed session. And this meeting is now adjourned at, I can't see that far, 7:25.